Hey Hoosier fans, welcome to this edition of the Three-Man Weave. We just enjoyed watching the Hoosiers beat the Sam Houston State Bearcats 99-45. Great game for the Hoosiers, fourth biggest blowout in IU basketball history.
IU basketball history, 54 points, and the second biggest ever under Tom Crean. There was a 57 one, I believe, last year, and that's the only thing ahead of it, and only two other games ahead of it in the entire history of the program.
When you look at this game, you know, IU really had the game from the beginning. They started the game on a 30-10 run, about 12 minutes into the game.
Or the other way to look at it was a 16-2 run to start the game.
Yeah, I think they were ahead, 18-2 at the start of the game. It was, and I mean, you could just pretty much tell from the start that they were heads and shoulders above this team.
Yeah, and I don't even think that Sam Houston State is a bad team by any means.
No.
I think it's that IU just today, more than either of their first two games, just came out firing on all cylinders. I mean, because I think there are some decent shooters on that Sam Houston State team. I think it's a good mid-major team from the looks of it. Just completely outmatched size-wise and what Crean and what Will Sheehey talked about post-game was energy, and I think that was pretty apparent.
Yeah. The thing that stuck out to me was the fact that the Hoosiers got to the line 44 times, 44 free throw attempts from the line. They hit 30 of them. You know, just drawing a tremendous amount of fouls. Obviously, a little bit undersized Sam Houston State was compared to the Hoosiers, but, you know, moving forward, that's a big strength for IU.
Yeah, I think they were in, the double bonus with like 10 minutes left in the first half.
Yeah, it was, they were just fouling left and right. I think it was partially the only way they could try to slow down IU, but at the same time, like, they played a similar up-tempo offense, and really and that sort of carries over the defense as well. But I think they were trying to beat IU at IU's own game, and I think that's why IU ended up playing so well tonight.
Yeah.
Guys, let's talk about one of the big stories of the game. Will Sheehey going into the starting lineup for Christian Watford. Only the second game in Watford's career he's come off the bench, but you know what? Watford really responded with 23 points off the bench.
Yeah, he was the leading scorer, so that says something right there. And Crean pointed out post-game that he also led the team in deflections, which is sort of Crean's personal favorite stat. He quotes that every single press conference, right? Probably twice per press conference, at least. He likes that stat.
I believe Watford had 18 deflections, Crean said, at the end of the game.
Was it 18? It was well into the teens.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing that was just obvious, I mean, he came off the bench, fairly early in the first half, I believe, and you could just tell, he was fired up. I mean, in the post-game press conference, he was saying that, that coming off the bench wasn't that big of a deal. And, maybe that's true, maybe it wasn't, but, I mean, you could really tell that he had, a little bit of a fire in him.
A little chip on the shoulder, for sure.
Yeah.
23 points in 23 minutes, and, the production was definitely there. After a somewhat lackluster game on Monday night.
More than lackluster. I mean, I can tell you firsthand, he just did not have it that night, and it happens to everyone, including the Christian Watfords of the world, I guess. But he had it again tonight. So.
On the other side of that change, though, if you look at Will Sheehey's numbers, 18 points, 2 assists in 26 minutes of play. Will Sheehey really did set the tempo early on.
You could tell he was pumped to be starting. I mean, it's not like he hasn't before. He has, I think this was his 19th career start, but his first this year. And you got to wonder if someone, especially given his nature, was a little pissed off that he ended last year starting and isn't starting at the beginning of this year.
Definitely. I mean, it's curious, going on from here with both of them playing well, what Crean will do with this, this tournament coming up in Brooklyn. Will he start Sheehey with his, fairly strong performance today? Will he, go back to starting Watford? It'll just be.
I'm going to guess Watford goes back to starting,
probably.
But who knows?
I mean, at this point, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. And, I wouldn't be surprised if we did see Watford off the bench, but realistically, I think that this was kind of just a message.
I think so, and I think it did its job, and I think Watford's going to start again until they need another wake-up call like this.
Yeah. And what Crean has said, what the players have said, this whole, start of the season is, they have
seven or eight
starters on this team. If those guys can just keep their egos in check, maybe it doesn't really matter who starts.
Yeah.
Maybe the starting five isn't really that big of a deal. And I think if they can go into the rest of the season and Crean can switch up the lineup to how he feels is best, that this team can probably go pretty far if they can just keep the stuff outside the game in their heads.
I mean, as you had 5 guys in double figures, which tells you something right there. Very balanced in that regard. And it was just one of those cases where, you know how every coach after a game, after a win especially, will point out every single thing they can think of that can be improved on. And I don't think Crean said much of anything about what could be better.
I don't remember.
He talked about he said Yogi had a little bit of an off night, but at the same time, Yogi posted, I think, his best numbers for assists yet this year.
Possibly.
And I think Crean talked about how his offense could have been better. So
he also said, though, the one rare thing that you saw from Yogi as a freshman was, even though the points weren't there, his energy level, his intensity.
Specifically his off-the-ball defense.
Were there all night.
Which is definitely one of those things you don't think of out of a freshman. That off-the-ball defense is such an upperclassman kind of technique, generally.
Speaking of upperclassmen, one of the seniors on the team achieving one of the big milestones in college basketball, Jordan Hall's achieving his 1,000th point of his career with the three-pointer about midway through the second half.
Yeah.
He was 10 shy away from 1,000 coming into the game, got on that last three-pointer, and got taken out right after to a standing ovation.
Yeah, Crean said he was going to take him out anyway, and then Hall's thought... I mean, because not only was it a three-pointer, it was a three-pointer from about 3 solid steps back from the three-point line.
It was an NBA three-pointer.
Oh, yeah.
Classic holes, just pull up, jack it up 3 that went in.
And it went in, but he thought Coach Crean was pissed off at him, and he thought, oh, that's why I'm getting taken out of the game. And then he's like, wait, why am I getting a standing ovation?
Yeah. Great moment there for Halls, certainly deserving of it. One of Bloomington's finest to ever come out.
And so now, and Watford already had reached that mark last season, and so that makes 3 total under Crean because Verdell Jones achieved it before either of them.
That's correct. And you know what? Just a great milestone for Jordan Hall's hip on a special night where the 1953 National Championship team was honored at halftime. Special moment. Coach Crean talked about that a little bit in the post-game press conference. He said, always great to have greatness around. And you know what? It really was around, and it was on display tonight. The Hoosiers looked great all around.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, you can't really see it, but the banner for that team is right,
right up there,
20 feet behind us and above us.
Get it?
There we go.
And Crean was talking about how they see that banner every day in practice. And
I got the chance to talk to Bobby Slick Leonard a little bit before the game, and he just was echoing how the tradition that they even felt when they were playing back 60 years ago, and how important that is for Crean to keep that going. And he really feels like this team is built to do special things for a long time, and he was really praising Crean for his recruiting and his coaching skills. And I think it'll be yet to see, but I think Crean's made a pretty big impact and should be a special couple of years down the road.
Yeah, I heard they were sort of drawing connections between Crean and Branch McCracken, the coach of those the first couple of banner teams.
Yeah.
A special night in Bloomington for sure, and you know what? We'll be joining you next from Brooklyn.
Going on the road.
Yeah, going on the road.
And playing a major conference team for the first time.
First time.
Georgia, frankly, doesn't look like they're going to be a big... They're not a... They're a major conference team. They're an SEC team, but...
Yeah. I mean, actually, I looked on Pomeroy's rankings tonight. They actually are 3 spots below North Dakota State, who played last Monday. So, Georgia, just coming from a Big 6 conference sounds a little bit more intimidating, but I would imagine that the Hoosiers would, have a similar fate these past 3 games they've had to open the season.
It's going to be fun, guys. You ready for the big city? Ready to hit up New York?
Sure.
Exciting.
I've been there since I was, I think, 8 years old. So.
I haven't been there ever, so
we're looking forward to it. We hope that you guys are just as excited about this tournament. It's going to be a good one. Hoosiers win here in Assembly Hall, 99-45 against
Sam Houston State.
Sam Houston State. That's a long one to type out as we've been typing out the rest of the day. But thanks for joining us.
We're ready for Georgia with a nice one-word.
We'll catch you from Brooklyn as the Hoosiers take on Georgia next Monday.
Peace out.
Thanks a lot, Hoosier fans.
See you guys.